All right, welcome to the leg demo for your lap desk. This is actually take two. So what I'm going to do is go back. Unfortunately, I did this entire thing and it didn't record. So what we're going to do is in week 7, you should see uh, all 5 of our different parts. And the hardest one is definitely the legs. So once we open up our legs, you can hit view and make it larger if you'd like, but you'll be able to see our multi-view drawing. The most important view here is the front, and that is 8.25 wide, right? And that's the overall measurement by 1.5 tall. So what we're going to do is break down our shape into a rectangle, and then we'll add, or remove rather, these angles. Then we can drill our hole in it, and we're done. So looking at this, it looks a lot more complicated than it is. So what we want to do is first get started by, you should have a folder for this project. If you do not have a folder, you're going to create one by going to Create Folder. And then under the name, you're going to type last name, lap desk. So I'll open mine. And I'll go to Create Document within this folder. That way it keeps everything inside that folder. So I will name my document Desk Legs. All right, so I mentioned we need to draw a rectangle 8.25 by 1.5. So to do that, I'm going to start a new sketch on the front and use the rectangle tool, click on my origin, drag it out, do my width dimension first, 8.25, enter, by 1.5, enter. So you'll notice that it drags your rectangle way off screen. So you have two options here. You can just move up to your view cube and click on front, and it will kind of fit to view so that you can see your shape. Or if you're using a mouse, you can use the mouse wheel backwards or mouse wheel forward, and it'll zoom in and out. If you click the mouse wheel down, you can pan to like center your object within your screen. Right, but you want to, generally speaking, be able to see your entire drawing whenever you're drawing on it. So I'm going to use my line tool to create these angles. So this is 15 degrees off square, which means that if this rectangle still existed, this diagonal line here would be 15 degrees from that vertical. Okay, so square means that 90-degree angle right there. So to add an angle or to trim something off, right, we're going to use the line tool and then we'll use the trim tool. So with the line tool, I'm going to click in the, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to click in the top left on that point, and I'm going to drag down, and you'll get that small black symbol there to pop up right there. That means it's perpendicular, it's attaching to that line. And we do want it to attach to that line because we need it to stop there no matter what. We don't care about the length of the line, we just need it to go all the way to the bottom and add an angle. Once you click on that line, it wants to continue to draw with your line tool. You're just going to hit escape there to get out. Then I'm going to use the dimension tool, and I'm going to determine the angle from this line, again off square, so off of this 90 degree, right? We want to click on that line with our dimension tool and click on the vertical line, and right now I'm 22 degrees off square. We want that to be 15. All right, so it adds that angle, and then you can hit M or use the trim tool up here, the scissors, and you want to click on that vertical line and this bottom line that's left over. We want to trim those pieces off. You can leave them there, and whenever you extrude it, it would only extrude this, and you would have to click on that. But you don't want to accidentally leave things that don't need to exist, because if you did click on it, it would fill in that rectangle portion again. So we're going to leave that deleted with the trim tool pretty much, right? So the next thing I need to do is add my 45-degree angles here at the top. And I know that my 45s meet in the center because 0.75 is showing me where the center point of that circle is, but it's also running directly through the point of that leg. So I will use that information to draw my 45-degree angles. So again, I'm going to use the line tool, and I'm going to hover over on the left-hand side until I see that little square pop up. And that's saying, do you want to attach it to a center point? So we have that little black dash with a dot and then a dash in the center. Right? That's saying, do you want to attach to this center point? So I'm going to click on it and draw my angle out to the top. Again, we just want to attach it. I don't know how far it needs to be. I don't know any of that. I'm just drawing it so that it attaches. Same thing down here. And then I can correct it with my dimension tool. So I'll just click here, same thing. We want this to be 45 degrees off square, so 42. Let's change that to 45. And then down here, I'll click on that, click on the vertical. This one's 41. Let's make that 45. If you do that and your lines do not connect to the bottom, or they stop too short, that means you didn't click on this line whenever you drew it, and you'll just have to redraw this. All right, but you need to make sure that both are 45, or else whenever we go to assemble it, it won't work. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard to get my trim tool. I'm going to click that line, the vertical, the other vertical, and the bottom line, and trim all of those off, right? So we have two options here. We can extrude this shape that is our leg shape, but we do not have our hole in it yet. And if we did extrude it right now, you would have to put the hole in it afterwards. You'd have to create a new sketch and then click on the front plane of that extruded object. Or you could do it all in one and add the hole right now, which is what we're going to do. So let's take a look at our dimensions for our hole. First of all, this symbol here, the O with the slash through it, is the universal symbol for diameter. Diameter is the measurement across a circle, right? So that says that that circle is 0.25, a quarter of an inch. And that the center point of that circle is 0.75 from the top and 0.75 from the end. So we're going to use all those figures to help us draw our circle. So I'm going to use the circle tool. You can also hit C on your keyboard. And I'm going to draw a circle anywhere. It doesn't matter as long as it's on your shape. We'll be able to move it with the dimension tool. So I'm just going to click and I'm going to make it 0.25. Enter. Then I'm going to use the dimension tool, D on my keyboard. Click the center point and this end point. And we want that to be 0.75. Enter. Then I'm going to click on this center point and this top point because that's where our dimensions show us, right? And right now it's 0.67. We need that to be 0.75 as well. If your line's going through and it's directly through the center, that means you did it correct, right? Because 0.75 is half of 1.5, which is the overall width here. Our diameter's right. These dimensions are right. All of these dimensions are right. And I can go ahead and hit the check mark. So I'm going to zoom out to show you whenever it pops out. You don't have to do this, but if you hit extrude, you'll be able to see it pop out into 3D if you are up in the top right view, right? So we need to check our depth. Our depth is 0.75, and it's like that for all of our pieces for this project. That doesn't change. you should always be popping this depth into 0.75 for this project. All right, so whenever I hit the check mark, it will complete our shape. But we are not done there. We also want to create this drawing because we are using this drawing because it's mine, right? And you are replicating the part, but you need to create the drawing for yourself. So whenever you get into the wood shop, you'll be able to follow along from your plans, not mine. And it's very important that these are correct because then if you create the assembly on here, it says create assembly, right? We'll be able to tell if there's any mistakes in your drawing before we get into the wood shop, and you have to make it physically out of wood, right? So we're going to hit create drawing, just the default ANSI 8-inch. So that's the standard. A is the size, that's 8.5 by 11, and we want our measurements in inches. Next thing I'm going to do is click on part 1, and by default it shows us our front view. So our scale is 1 to 3. You can leave it at 1 to 3 if you want to try and fit 1 to 2 in there, which I think is what I did. You can, but not required. You can leave it at 1 to 3. It'll change your scale down here whenever you drop it anyway. So bottom left corner for the front, top left corner for the top. OnShape, for whatever reason, stops automatically projecting your angles. You'll just have to click here and then click here and bring that up to the top right for our pictorial. Remember, you want to keep these in a rectangle. Don't place them all over the place. You want to keep things lined up, especially these views here. And then the last thing you want to do before you start dimensioning is place your center marks. Right? You want to center mark your circle there. That way, whenever you add your dimensions, it's going to the center of that circle. Right? So the last thing you're going to do to the drawing portion is add your dimensions. So dimension tool, and you are going to make them line up and have all of the dimensions that I have. Usually I wouldn't give you all these. You would have to supply them based on an isometric, but we're just beginning, so you just want to make sure you get this done first. And then before you submit, you want to change your title to desk legs. Drawing number can be 01, it could be 1, whatever. Right, but this is your first drawing. New for this project, we have material, and that is pine. And finish is stain. So we're going to stain these, not paint them. You'll be able to laser engrave something cool on it, but we're going to stain these. So once your drawing looks like this, desk legs, materials, all right, and you have all of these dimensions, you are finished and you can move on to your next drawing. If you're done with all your drawings, share your folder with me by going to OnShape, my OnShape, find your folder, whoops, right click on your folder, share, teams, add your class, and change it from CanEdit to CanView and hit share. That's it. That's drawing the legs. It's the hardest drawing of this project. If you have any questions, message me on Teams or let me know.